Hello, everybody, and welcome to International Podcast Day, September 30th, 2022, Steve. It's been a great day of celebration so far, both on our live stream. Also, let's be honest, the last 48, 72 hours, it's been a celebration around the world. So thank you to the entire podcasting community internationally for making this day possible. Steve, I know my day's going great. I assume yours is just the same. You got any cool things to say before we kick off this hour?
Ditto.
All right. That's a man of few words.
It's going great. Actually, podcast day started yesterday in some countries. Actually, in New Zealand, started going around the world, and then we picked up. It's been great. We just previously had a session in Turkish. Now we just had one in Spanish. Who knows what's next?
Yep. It's going to be very exciting. It's going to be a lot of fun. So before we kick it off and send it to our crew, I did want to thank our sponsor for International Podcast Day. This is Blueberry. They've been a proud sponsor of us since 2015 and been dedicated to providing the most essential podcast tools to podcasters in the industry for over 18 years, basically since 2005. And of course, you can do more than publish with Blueberry. They help you connect with your listeners. They help you monetize your podcast. And of course, the goal we're all looking for is to watch your show thrive. And that's exactly what they do for you. So make sure you guys head over to blueberry.com. They do have a nice big button there that says start free trial. Make sure you hit up that and let them know that you heard about them through International Podcast Day. And that would be great. So, Steve, what do you say that we get out of the way, have this amazing panel of African-based podcasters, and we're going to talk about investing in the African podcast industry. Very excited, very honored to have all these amazing people on the stream. I'm going to add them right here. So I say, Steve, let's get out of the way and let them do what they do best.
I don't need to talk. Bring it on.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I will get out of the way. You all can introduce yourselves. We very much look forward to it. And thank you. I know a few of you have been on our streams before, and International Podcast Day and your communities have collaborated recently within the last year or the last couple of years. So thank you for helping us out. And I'm glad that you got everybody's on the stream today.
All right, I guess it's time. Good evening from Nigeria, everyone. Happy International Podcast Day as well. I think, okay, so it's good evening for Tony. How about you, Melissa?
It's good night for sure. It's 11 p.m. Yeah.
Okay, so we are here.
Okay.
And I'm happy to be moderating this session. My name is Bidemi Adedire. I'm the founder of APVA, APVA, also known as the Association of African Podcasters and Voice Artists. And I'm going to open the floor up for giants in the African continent, changing the podcasting space. So let's just go this way. I'm seeing Melissa's face right here. So Melissa, you could do the honors by introducing yourself and telling us some amazing things you've seen in the past year in terms of podcasting in African space. And then we move on to Tony and then Gathoni.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited about this panel. Oh my gosh, we are together having this discussion. So thank you for organizing it. My name is Melissa Mbogwa. I am co-founder and co-director of AfricaPodfest, which is an ecosystem builder. We exist to amplify, connect, and elevate the African podcast industry so that it grows in such a way that centers voices that have been in the margins in our media universe in Africa. So we do research. We also organize Africa Podcast Day every year, with great thanks to International Podcast Day for the inspiration. And your question was, what does investing in the African podcast scene mean, right?
So we want to sort of, before we go into investing, let's talk about what we've seen in the past year, the growth you've seen. Yes, all the things you've loved about what has happened this past year. Yes, happy to hear about them.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I think the most exciting thing is the APVA Awards, honestly. Yeah. The awards, the first ever African Podcast and Voice Artist Awards. That for me is wow.
Thank you so much. So Tony, let's hear from you.
Okay. My name is Tony Doe. I'm from Lagos, Nigeria. I've been in the podcast space for about a decade, playing around it, but only got really serious in 2016. I'm the country rep for APVA in Nigeria here. And I'm just excited about today. I've been on a panel already, and I've been in and out of the space throughout the whole day. I've even been able to put out 3 newsletters today. I don't know how I managed to do that though. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to see that we're taking up more space, like Dr. Kim Fox wants, and I hope she's watching wherever she is. And I'm excited to be here.
Thank you so much, Tony. So let's hear from you.
Hi, my name is Gathoni. I am the community manager at AfriPods. AfriPods is the premier Pan-African hosting and distribution platform, and we are building the largest library of African audio stories. It's so great to be here with you guys, having partnerships as AfriPods with APVA and AfricaPodfest. Tony doing a lot of work with us as well. So it's really amazing, like Melissa said, to have a space where we can speak about Africa and what it is we're doing. The thing in the last year that I think has been amazing has been just the growth. If you think about like what Melissa did this year with Africa Podcast Day and how big it was this year in comparison to the years before, to think that they started in 2019 and see what is happening now, to see like Semabox having more than 90 podcasts that they've done and being able to be in the second incubation for like Dada Incubator. Amazing. Also, it opened up to two more countries, so now it's up to 3 countries. Seeing you do the APVA awards as well, having African creators actually get awards and be recognized on that platform. Tony with his newsletter also, it's been a lot of growth in the last year. So yeah, that's what has
We
excited
have a
me.
lot to celebrate. Thank you so much for saying that. And I am super excited to be here. In fact, the topic of this panel was inspired by Africa Podfest research. You know, we will actually delve into that, but because of your research, we can actually talk about investing in the podcasting industry today. So let's what does it mean to you? Let's sort of define what investing in the African podcast industry means to each and every one of us. So, Melissa.
Yes. Investing means putting your money and your effort and your time where your mouth is. When you say, oh, I see the potential in Africa's media space, in African audio, in African stories, backing that up with money, time, effort. That's what it means to me in a nutshell. Yeah.
I agree totally. Tony, what do you think?
We were having a conversation a few days ago, you and I, and we were talking about how certain financial institutions didn't know that the audio creatives were part of the creative economy. So investing in us, investing in what we're doing also means getting their attention and letting them see the potential in the things we do. It means local and international businesses with stakes in the creative economy putting their money into the podcast space, a space with the potential to provide sustainable employment for millions of youth. So that's what it means to me.
I'm telling you that my slides are ready, and I was ready to pitch away. Like I attended an event actually, and then I spoke with makers on the continent, and I said, no, I need discussion. We need to talk about investing in this space. So in the African podcast industry.
That's true.
Gathoni, it's your turn. Okay.
I'll piggyback on what Tony said. I think for me, investing in the African podcasting industry would look like having content or having creators paid for what it is they're doing. The second we're able to see creators have money and live off of their content, that for me is when I'll know, okay, we've done the right thing, we've done a good job. Because I feel like right now, people in the business are making money. If it's the editors, once you edit, you've gotten your money. If it's the producers, once they've done the production, they've gotten the money. So to have the creator be able to live off of it, and what they're doing would be for me the pinnacle, like we have reached of investing in the African podcasting industry. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. So the research that Africa Podfest has done. So forecast more investors showing interest in the audio industry. I'd like to speak to some of your findings.
Definitely. And for example, Gathoni, Tony, you've been in the podcast scene for a long time, and we know people who've kind of laid the foundations and showed us examples. And it's one thing to be talking and saying we see the potential. We're here as the creators, as the people on the ground who believe. Um, However, we have seen the conversation start to shift and to be taken more seriously as part of the creative industry. As also audio is part of the creative industries. Just to repeat what Tony mentioned earlier, so we've seen a lot more institutional, business side, legacy media, advertising industry, brands, also tech companies kind of starting to say, "Oh, knock knock, what's going on with podcasting? Can we talk to?" And we talk to people. Who do we talk to? And then it's wonderful because we are ready. APVA exists, AfriPods exists, Semabox exists. So we are already organized, and that's what's so important about all the effort that I mean collectively, those of us who've been in this space for a while, and for a lot of people for so many years, even before, even when I started working in podcasting, I found people here. Tony and Co, who've been around for so long, been here, Gathoni and Co. So I think it's starting to pay off. Or the way we see it at Africa Podfest, anyway, we're starting to see the uptake and the payoff. Of course, it doesn't mean that it's going to come, just automatically. We still have to kind of engage, get our slides ready, our decks, get our pitches ready, and be there in the game, having those conversations and preparing ourselves for investment.
That I'm the youngest podcaster here, like literally no experience in this space. And I know how to sort of sell things to people, so they sort of experience, because I cannot tell you how much I've learned from. It actually inspired a lot of what we are doing at APVA. I think we number one giant in the podcasting space here in. Question now goes to Gathoni. You're in the best position here to speak to this, considering that AfriPods is the only helps African audio creatives. So are there this industry for international entities?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of investment opportunities for the people who want to or are looking to the African podcasting space. Like Melissa said, it's a lot of time, it's money. So it's all of these things that you need to figure out. I think for me, what I think is the most important is, in order to, if you're thinking of investing in the African podcasting space, you need to be thinking of how to minimize the barrier of entry for everyone who's trying to get into it. So thinking about the creative. So what is it that the creative in Africa needs? Is it getting mobile phones to them? So getting phone companies to come in and give them the phones? Is it making things like the roadcaster and things like that less expensive for people who are coming in, talking to governments and trying to figure out how do we bring them in without all of the tax? Because a lot of people are like, I have to buy it from the UK, I have to buy it from the US. So then bringing it in becomes such a barrier to entry for a lot of people, because do we have the money? We haven't figured out how to pay the creatives yet. So asking them to invest so much at the beginning doesn't make sense. So if you want to come in and invest in that for them, give us access, maybe asking Roadcaster to open a couple of stores in Africa, you know what I mean? Because we are the orators in the world, so why not come here? We have the stories, right? Maybe it's figuring out how to educate people. So not only the creatives, but also figuring out how to teach people how to edit audio, teaching people what production for audio looks like, because it's not the same as video, because I have to do, like, I don't have visual support with my audio, so I need to immerse someone in my story just from my voice. So how am I able to do that? How is my editor able to do that? And if you can create spaces that would help the African creators and the ecosystem be able to grow like that, then you have helped us. It's investing in people like Melissa and AfricaPodfest. They need to do data. They need money to get their data out, to collect the data. So talk to Melissa and ask her, what is it that you need on data? It's talking to Tony and finding out, when you're trying to find out news about your newsletter, how do I get it? It's talking to Semabox and trying to figure out, when it comes to doing your incubator program, what is it that you need? Do we need to send certain things? Because today we were on a panel earlier where Laureen of Semabox was saying they finished the incubator, but they have so many stories that are great, but they have a limited resource. So it's trying to figure out, it's almost, who do you feel is deserving? But why can't we say all 100 and something stories? Why do we have to pick and choose? And so being able to bring your money so that we're not having to pick and choose which stories get the platform, let everyone get the platform. Giving Bidemi the money, where now I know you're building APVA Match, where you're trying to see how to bring people together in the industry. So you're able to build a technology for that. At AfriPods, giving us the money so that we're able to build the tech that the African podcasters need. So when we're having the conversations with them every month, asking what do you need, if they tell us we want this specific thing, if we have the money from the investors, then we don't have to figure out which tech takes priority over what, you know what I mean? So if you give it to us, I think the investment opportunity for the people outside is investing in the people who are already in the industry here. I think Dan said it best on the we had a panel on at Podcast Movement, and he said, don't try and figure out what to do, invest in the people who are doing the work and they know where the money needs to go. So don't try and figure it out for yourself. Just give the people who are here doing the work on the ground, the Niger pod hubs and everything. They know who needs the money. They know how to work it. They know what the time needs and all of that. So invest in the people already working in the industry.
Oh my God, Kath, I don't know what to say to that. You've said everything that needs to be on the continent. So Tony, let's come to you. I have a different question for you. Individual or an organization or a company, what should they know investing in the African audio market? What do they need to know?
I'm missing some bits of the question.
Okay.
Okay, for those who want to come in and invest
For
in the
example,
market,
yeah.
first of all, you're going to
Yes,
make
yes.
money.
Hmm.
Yes, you're going to make money.
Okay.
You're going to make a profit. So, rest assured, you will make money. It might not be immediate, but it will happen. We have content, we have creators, and we're increasing each year. Gathoni has just shared the perspective now of having so many stories and not enough resources to put all the stories out. And it's not like these are mid stories, these are really heavy stories, and everything needs to go out at the same time. So, you have content already you can invest in. It's important to take time out to research the markets, hire local experts, as she said. We have the Abva community, we have the Niger Pod Hub, we have the Zambia Pod Hub, I think, and so many of those other communities coming together and pulling resources or pulling the talents together so that there's a sense of measurement. You need honest feedback and a deep understanding of the terrains you're going to come into. Each African pod space has its nuance and requires a unique approach. And like I had issues with some Chinese who tried coming before and then tried imposing their standards, and it's the same thing I also have with the US standards. Before Baraza Media Lab and AfricaPodfest, put out that really comprehensive data that I kept pushing into the faces of the Americans and the Europeans. We didn't have that here, except for what I thought I was doing, with the surveys. So it's important that we have these numbers. They're able to see these things and they can actually measure, where their investments are going in. And they have to be willing to be flexible. The opportunities are many. There's so much potential on the continent.
Okay, so I don't think I need to ask those questions. Like, the communities are here, the structure is here, we have people need to be funded. We all know these communities are not being funded by anyone. So it will be great when watch this, though, not just people, but entities that are looking to get into the African market. And surprisingly, emails, requesting some sort of partnership. I'm like, okay, so this is what building a platform looks like. The voices of our own people, and people are like, oh, we have this is happening in this are looking at as well. Thank you, Johnny, for that. Let's talk about, I'm gonna digress a bit, and I'm still with celebrities turning into podcasters. What does this mean to the average podcaster? How does this affect investment opportunities on the continent? And then
I missed the last part.
okay, I said, okay, we've seen a lot. What does this mean to the average podcaster, and how does this affect investment opportunities?
I think it
on the
has its pros
continent.
and cons, though. But indie podcasters, well, usually have this tendency to panic. Well, it's only natural for celebrities to see podcasting as the new shiny toy. Everybody's getting into it, and those with a bit more, those who have the advantage of being familiar or building familiar crowds, would always have an advantage. You bring in your crowd with you into the podcast space. But I'll say this, and I'm paying attention to the indie podcaster, the one who feels, oh, if somebody this big is coming into my space, man, there's nothing for me. But I'll tell you this, it shouldn't affect you in any way. Focus on your content for your audience. In the first place, you didn't start the show to appeal to so many people. You started the show to appeal to particular people who would be interested in your niche. And people keep forgetting that's what podcasting is about. It's niche content. It's serving particular people. So there may not be many, but there will be enough for you and they'll always engage with you. So you're not appealing to the same audiences as your rather the celebrities are not appealing to the same audiences as your show isn't motivated by star power. Some of these celebrities don't even have great podcasts, let's be honest. They've just been used as magnets for podcast networks to draw attention, and they get promoted vigorously because they have massive budgets. Some never even get to release episodes and then they walk away. You see, that one will concern you, if I'm allowed to speak pigeon. So just carve your niche, build your community, build your community, engage consistently with your community, and grow steadily. If you're lucky, the platform you host your show on, like AfriPods, might have complementary tools and strategies to help you grow. So, meanwhile, let me use the opportunity to welcome a couple of media personalities who've joined in the local market. We have Toke Makewa now, and Rogba Rimoro, who's a film director. And, Toke has made the pivot now from radio broadcasting to podcasting. So she's welcome.
Thank you so much. Melissa, what would you like to say to this?
Yeah. For sure, I think right now, especially in the early days, we have benefited. We do need kind of the star powered, especially for example, in Kenya, famously Adele, who pivoted from radio into podcasting and has one of the more visible and successful African podcasts. And she's fully dedicated and committed to the power of podcasting as a space for free expression and building new communities. And she's also Pan-African. So I think having her come into the podcast space with her star power has brought a lot of attention to podcasting, the kind of attention we need. However, I don't think that, that any indie podcaster who's not famous right now should be worried, because the game has only begun, and there's so many pathways. Tony's talking about niche audiences. That's so true. And there's also just such untapped potential, like when you think of language. And AfriPods is already in there, onboarding podcasts that are in local language. When you think of, like, for example, Kiswahili is spoken in Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, DRC, Uganda. Those are like 6 countries or 6 countries with like more than 100 million, I think about 100 million people, more. So when you start to think like that, instead of thinking about podcasting in terms of the Eurocentric or US-centric model, and just think, what are the opportunities we have here, from what I can see. Just think about, what's my story and who is the audience that I can reach here, and you just kind of go for it. I think we'll be very surprised. And there's so much space for new celebrities or new successes, and for the game really changing. So I agree with Tony. Like, my advice is don't be worried, just do you.
I agree with both of you, where it's the attention they bring to the industry is amazing. But I think also for celebrities, if a lot of them are honest, they'll realize once they start their podcasts, it's really hard to maintain. So it's not something that just because I have star power, and when I come in with my however many people listen to my first episode, how many people listen to the second one, though? That's what we want to hear. How many people dropped off in the first episode? Those are the statistics they need to share with us, because it gives so much pressure to the African creator or whoever it is who's trying to be like this person, but how we don't know truly what their numbers are like, right? I saw a panel earlier by BIPOC creators where they were talking about, why do we have to create, like, I want to be the Joe Rogan of podcasting, right? Why can't we have our own person or create our own standard for what it is that needs to happen? So I think if we take it out of that kind of space, then it becomes easier. Just create to create. Like Tony and Melissa have said, it's your niche. Your people always find you. How many business podcasts do you know? Why do they still exist? There's a new one that will come up tomorrow, but why? Business doesn't change. Investment is the same. Entrepreneurs are the same. But you have so many voices giving the same story, but the stories aren't really the same, because how I see, even on podcasting here, how I speak about podcasting versus any of you is not the same, yet we're all in the African podcasting space. So I don't think you should worry about them. They realize it's a lot of work once they get in. A lot of them don't stay. A lot of platforms are realizing that it's difficult to have that. The podcasts that are growing are the small ones. And if I take you outside even the podcasting industry, if you go into influencing, they've stopped going for the people with 1 million and something. They're going for people with 10,000, people with 5,000, because that's where the engagement is. So don't worry about the numbers. I would say don't worry about the numbers. The people will come to you, and the money will come to you once you have your community. Build your community, and that's just do your content. That's all it would be. Don't worry about celebrities.
I'm glad you talked about money. So let's talk about money. What are the proven strategies to monetizing? I do understand, personally, podcasting for me is a tool for advocacy. So it's never about the money. It's more philanthropy for me. And I'm trying to deepen generosity here in Africa. But what are the strategies we should know, or should any podcaster know, and start working towards? Okay, this is my plan. This is how I build my portfolio if I'm to monetize this channel. Tony, let's start from you. Then we go again.
I'll say this. Well, in the beginning, it wasn't supposed to be that way. In the beginning, it was just about expression, enjoying what you did. Even if you had one listener, it was okay. But over time, equipment, data, you now needed to become a promotional strategist. You had to become an overnight marketer. So, of course, for me, though, the most important thing is still the content itself. Without great content, you'll be wasting resources. So create great content, from your script to your presentation to how you use music and sound design in your production. Respect your audience. If you don't respect your audience, you're not going to be able to build a community. You're not going to be able to have listeners. So respect your audience. Have a budget for marketing and promotions. Have a budget. If you want to make money, you borrow money. Or at least have a plan that allows people even support you while you're looking towards reaching out to people who will eventually invest. But you need to have a budget for your marketing and promotions. You need social media for your amplification. It's good. It's essential to amplify, let people know that you exist. But when you're able to advertise in proper podcast applications and newsletters, you'll gain more exposure and you'll be able to attract the particular audiences and potential sponsors you're looking for. I also like the direct approach. Don't be afraid. If if somebody is within your scope of sponsorship that you think would match your content, reach out to them, send an email, send a DM if you can, but importantly, grow your audience first, so that you have something to work with. Build your media kit, ensure that it has the relevant data that will appeal to your potential sponsors. Be authentic. In fact, be great at what you're doing and produce content that you self would be proud of. Pigeon again. And here's where I need to emphasize on the quality of your podcast. It's on demand. So while consistent frequency, releasing episodes consistently over a period of time is a good thing, the ability for each episode to stand alone is even better. Certain themes may reoccur in real life that can have people scrambling for your old episodes, touching on those issues again. I have a good friend, Rodney Omeokachi, who was also a winner at the Apple Awards. He has an exceptional way of putting his episodes together, and that's what his podcasts represent. He does consistent episode releases, but something happens and he finds a way to look for an episode and he brings it back to the social media space to let people know that, oh, you see this situation here. We discussed it on the podcast on so and so day. Why don't you go check it out? And your old episodes rather are really good. They can attract sponsors over time and increase in value as time goes by. I was running up Gunners, just out of a creative space for like 4 years before anybody actually approached me and said, you know what, we think we like what you're doing and would like to sponsor you. And I wasn't even thinking, but by the time they asked for numbers and reach and audience structure, I was able to give them something and we worked out something and it worked. There's a guy, T with Tay, or Tay with T. No, sorry, T with Tay, right?
Yeah.
He finished his first season. I didn't hear anything about any sponsorships, but I could tell there was very strong promotional marketing strategies working behind the scenes. He's starting his second season and the T brand is already on board. So it's beautiful. The young god himself, Rodney, has a fine tech company supporting him as well. And before that, he did something for a restaurant in Abuja, and he just found a way to bring these elements into his show and not alienate his audiences. So be authentic, create great content, give yourself time to grow. They'll come. But you do the work. You still have to do the work. So, a budget is essential too.
Okay, Gathoni, the floor.
Thank you. I think also as you're thinking about companies and places like that, the thing about podcasting that is amazing is you create a community around you. That's the strength of what podcasts are. We've said you have to be niche and creating that space of people who are invested in who you are. And like Tony said, it's important to create amazing content because then you have people who, how when you drop an episode and there's people who are just waiting. My sisters and I started a podcast and you'd have people, we used to drop it on a Tuesday evening and you have people on Monday being like, we can't wait. And once you've created that kind of community around it, you'll find people being willing to, like Tony is saying, when you have to buy, like, you need to do marketing, I don't have the budget for it. You'll find people asking, how can we help? So it's things like donations. And it sounds difficult because I feel like a lot of people have an issue with donations. It's like, help me. But if your community is willing to give you the money because they're invested in what it is you're doing, allow them the opportunity, because you're not only creating for yourself, like Tony says, He created it for himself. It was something it was a passion project. And a lot of us start our content that way. It's a passion project and we're excited about it. But once your passion project becomes other people's passion project, you need to understand that they're invested in it just as much as you are. So allowing them the opportunity to do that. When it comes to looking for businesses that would come in, a lot of people overlook small businesses. The 5,000 shillings, the 10,000 shillings, the 20. Everyone's like, I need to have, we're seeing only the deals of 100,000, 1 million. And it's like, woo, so much fun. But you can make money off of like the lady who sells vegetables in the corner and she wants to do something, mention her in your podcast and she'll give you 5,000 shillings or whatever it is. And that is money on your podcast that now you can use, like Tony is saying, to marketing. Put it as $1 a day on Facebook or wherever it is, but that is going to push who your audience is and where you can get it. Okay. So don't just think of it when you're thinking about also investment opportunities. Don't just think of the big companies. Those are amazing companies. Yes, they have good money. But if you have 10 small companies, you're making as much money as the person with that one big one. So focus also on the small companies and then look into companies like, into spaces like Africa No Filter. I know give grants and things like that to people who are creating. So if you're creating in specific places, you might be able to find grants in those spaces, like for the people who are specializing. If I'm talking about like agriculture, there might be maybe even your government might have something in place as a grant for anyone who's building something in that space. So find those kind of things that help you grow, because then if you start with a grant and then you have the amazing production like Rodney does for the Young God, and it's huge, and then now in season 2 you don't have to go for the grant because someone came to you, like Tony was approached for Up Gunners. It starts as a passion project, but someone sees what it is you're doing and they can come in. So sometimes I would like the creator to think outside of, I must always work so hard. Sometimes it's okay if it's easy. That's just if it's easy, it's okay. Talk to your community and say, please, guys, I can't. We won't do season 2 if I don't get $10. And someone will give you the $10 because you're part of their day, you made them smile, whatever it is. So also sometimes it's okay for it to be easy.
I think this should be like, we have just, okay. The floor is...
Thank you. Sorry, I had lost your last sentence there. Thank you. Yes, I agree with what both Gathoni and Tony have said. And I've also lately been thinking about what else works in marketing, in terms of marketing, like in our context. So, just borrowing from what other industries have done, even borrowing from like what how radio has grown. Just thinking about that, and something that I'm very interested in, and I think would be a great experiment. So there's what has worked already, and we know the proven strategies for success in audience growth and in sustaining podcasts. And so my question is like, so what are the unproven new opportunities we could pursue? And one of the, for example, one of the things I've been thinking about is like crossover partnerships. For example, if I have a podcast, then instead of I could invest all my money and my effort in like trying to get new listeners who are only online or who already know what a podcast is, and kind of spend all my shillings doing that. Or I could maybe go an easier route to get 100 new listeners in one day by maybe going and doing a live a listening party where we play an episode of my podcast if I have a friend who's an artist and has a concert, for example. Or, so I've been thinking, like, for example, what are the offline ways? So by assessing like what we already have around us, so depending on where you're at, and this builds on what Gathoni was saying, if you have a podcast that's around agriculture or that touches on that, and you think about it and assess, like, so what's your network space and what's your opportunity space just in your niche? I think there are very interesting, surprising, maybe we could call them guerrilla methods that we could invent that just work here in our African context. The other example, and this has been talked about before, actually, I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to seeing someone experiment with this or to hear a story that's worked, is, for example, in Kenya, we call them matatus. I know, and in South Africa, they call them taxis, the public transport, which is usually very exciting and chaotic. But in Kenya, there's this really strong culture of like playing music and visual content. The matatus tend to have screens. It's just a whole entertainment content experience, riding in a matatu. And so I'd be curious to see, like, what if a podcast partnered with the Matatu network to like have podcasts played. Cough, cough, AfriPods. That would be yeah. Anyway,
I've seen Molly in the chat, so I hope she's listening to you.
Yeah. Anyway, all in all, what I'm saying is I'm also very curious, and I think this is something that we as AfricaPodfest, these are some of like the topics we'd like to expand on in research, in terms of researching to see like what are some business models that might work. Experiment, because again, it's a frontier. Our industry is not going to look the way it looks in the US or in Europe. So,
Melissa, a few things I'd like to say to African podcasters. Most likely not going to enjoy podcasting. So, and when you are passionate, you use your results, even if it takes you years, because I'm very patient. The things we want to do, we take time, but I'm patient. Make use of the media kit templates that we've created out there. And I think one thing, do not be afraid to ask. You emails to people like, you should come check out our here. So these are some strategies that we can. We should be rounding up very soon. Collaboration, okay? And I believe that we are right now. There is APFA, there is AfricaPodfest. Way we would have brought in Ninjapod. That's the beauty. That's one thing Africans are known for. So let's talk about how podcast space and is key to the growth. Melissa, would you like to speak to this first, and then we go to Gathoni? Mike, I think you need to unmute your mic.
Oh, sorry. Thanks. Could you please repeat the question?
Okay, the role collaboration plays in the African podcast industry.
Yes. Oh, that's the core, you know. Without collaboration, we wouldn't be here. None of us and the work we're doing would exist or continue to sustain itself without collaboration. Firstly, so I think there is no industry without collaboration, you know, and I don't, you know, even when it's even when we don't think of it in terms of we are here building something together. Let's say I would need AfriPods in order to distribute Semanasi podcast. Even if we were not talking regularly, I would still need them, you know, as AfricaPodfest. We still need Tonido to be our news outlet, to be our outreach into wider audiences, to break down the research report in a way that's, you know, more accessible, digestible to everyone. We still need APVA to curate and kind of set the bar on what the standard is for African quality podcasting. So we can't avoid this collaboration word because no single person, no single entity can do it all, and neither should any single entity do it all. Secondly, I believe that if we want external parties who are not us, the core industry, to invest in us, typically an investor, an outsider, is not going to invest in you. And by outsider, I mean not in the core of the industry, but they could be local, they could be international. Then you can't ask someone. People are not going to invest in you if you've also not got your skin in the game. And collaborating and supporting each other is a real confidence booster to the outsider looking in and saying, "Oh, this is a network. It's an organism. This ecosystem is alive, and it can outlive any one person. It will outlive the people who are in it right now, and therefore that's kind of what just is I think the baseline for creating investor confidence is like, will I benefit? Will I gain value in the long term? Will this be profitable? If the individuals who are there now, what are they doing to build something that outlives them? And collaboration is the very foundation for that. So I'm really happy that we do have a collaborative mindset at this point, at this stage.
Sir, can I just say before Gathoni speaks that Voice Awards, the nomination phase, and we heard, I was so happy. I'm like, this is it. This is all I want, because we kind of collaboration we need. So yes to it. That communal spirit. It's a yes for me, and I feel like that is what really fast. Oh, Molly is here. Okay. This is the floor is yours. So please speak to collaboration and the and investing in the African podcast space.
Okay. For me, I feel like collaboration for us is I think it's the core of who we are as Africans. Outside of any industry, it's that it takes a village. We always say that. So if I need to do something and I have a child, I know I can call my neighbor to watch my child while I run off to do something and come back. It's a very core part of who we are. So I don't know that we can, even if we tried, not do business or do business without being a part of or finding our people and being like, "Hi, Melissa, I'm stuck here," or "I need numbers," or something. It's just a part of who we are as Africans. We can't help ourselves. I think in the podcasting industry, what I have seen collaboration do for us is it's allowed us ownership. So we are in charge of the direction of the story. So our data is now controlled by us, where Melissa and Josephine have created a space with Baraza, and they're the ones who are doing the numbers for us. It's not we're waiting for someone to come in and tell us it's okay. They created Africa Podcast Day, which again, it gave us a space that we can celebrate ourselves. Collaboration has allowed for Bidemi to do APVA, which is a space for us to celebrate ourselves. We didn't wait for someone else to come and do it. She's created the space for herself. It's a space ownership in how our stories are told, because Tony is the one who's the person for news. If you want to find out about African podcasting news and you're not on his newsletter, it's a lie. The information you're getting is a lie. It's Tony has the access to the people, and he's able to call us at AfriPods, call Bidemi, call Fefe, and find out what is it that you're doing. How can I do this? And he's the source. We are 1 degree of separation from everyone, in the space. So it's allowed us to be in charge of who we are, allowed us to build our communities that are teaching podcasting. A lot of podcasters say the information out there is very whitewashed. We don't know what it is that's happening. And so when we've created our communities like Niger Pod Hub, the Zambian Podcasters Hub, and a lot more on the continent, then I'm able to go to them and ask, okay, so what does editing look like for me? Or when I have this data issue, what does that look like? It might not be an issue that a podcaster outside of the continent deals with, but I know what that looks like. And so if I've done it for a while, if Bidemi asked me what it is, I'd be able to tell her, okay, based on this, this is how you do it. Use your phone or put your blanket over your head, something like that. But it's based on an experience that I have. So collaboration for me in our space has allowed for ownership. And I'm very excited about that because it doesn't matter who comes in to invest now. Like Melissa said at the beginning, we've already established who it is, who's where. Sema Box are the ones who are doing the stories. We're not trying to water them down. We're not trying to, Tony mentioned people coming in with investment and trying to be like, okay, how about you adjust? No, we're not adjusting. This is where we are, because collaboration has allowed us to have an opportunity to be like, no, we can't, it's okay. We'd rather say no than change who we are. So ownership, and it allows us to figure out and be picky almost to who we'll allow to invest in the space, because we already are doing all of this on our own. So if you're coming and if you're not adding value, then we don't need you in the space. You know what I mean? But you'll add value on our terms as well because we own the space currently. So yeah, that's what I think it's done for us.
Yeah. Me. Now on collaborate. Or do you want to perhaps, are you sure there is nothing you want to say to this?
The ladies they've said it all. All I'm going to do now is quote, you know fit chop swallow without soup. Tree no they make forest. One tree, even if na Iroko, if you make forest. Which other one am I looking for? It takes a village, right, to raise a child. What we have is in us. It's like Gathoni had already said. It's already it's what we're doing in the podcasting space is an extension of who we are as Africans already. We're a massive community. We're always looking for ways to work with each other. It's just that politicians have a way of, making things look messed up for us. I'm going to quote Molly here, and this is my favorite quote. I'm going to put it on his shirt real soon. Whenever I tell Molly, we need to do this, do you think this can happen in this space? She replies me with, more is more. Now, define that however you want, but more is more. I don't think there's enough we can do in the collaborative space. There's always going to be space to do more. If we want to do more, if we want to get more, we're going to have to do more. And there's another quote I was trying to remember. I said, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, then, go with the community. And we're at that stage where we're going far now. I've gone alone for quite a while. I was fast. Maybe that's why I'm able to be at the position I'm in now to look back and say, you know what? Community is essential. You can't do this alone. So, that's it.
Actually sent a question. She said, what does it look like space to the African podcasting ecosystem? Would you like to speak to that? What does it to the African podcasting ecosystem?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think Gathoni had actually already alluded to this earlier. It looks like coming in and working with the people who are already in the space. People who are, as we say in Kenya, qua ground. The people who are there doing the work. They know where the money needs to go. They know where the growth is. We know, and we're already here. So to anyone who's looking to invest in us, invest in the industry, to reap rewards as well, from all the shared value we can create together. It's about coming in, plug in, and be part of the community rather than kind of being distant. Be part of it. Join the community. Yeah.
I think we are done for today, but before to connect with AfricaPodfest, AfriPods podcast, found your website, your social media. I can go just visit apva.africa. Very simple. Find our social media handles, everything about us, including the African podcast and voice We are open to sponsorships. Yes, yes, and yes, because we would like to see more. They do. Okay, so that is my own where can we find Africa Podfest and how can
Africa Podfest is at podcasting.africa and at Africa Podfest across social media.
Yes. Okay, Tony. Tony, you are muted.
If you're looking for Tony Doe, you'll find me on bio.link/Tony Doe. Bio.link/Tony Doe. You'll find my Twitter handles. My social media handles are there. You'll find my podcasts, and of course, you'll find my newsletter as well, podcast related. So it's bio.link/Tony Doe.
AfriPods.
You can find AfriPods at AfriPods on every social media platform. If you want to ask us questions, you can write to me, Gathoni at afripods.com. I will be happy to answer any questions that you have. You can visit our website if you have your podcast. We want to host it. We want you to migrate. We want you to submit it so that it's accessible to the African podcaster. And to do that, you go to afripods.africa and you'll find all the details that you need there.
Thank you so much for making this happen. I'm really because this is better. It's past. Thank you and happy International Podcast Day, everyone. Bye.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. I really appreciate you organizing this panel. And Melissa, good to see you. Tony, and everybody else on the panel. We appreciate you coming in and celebrating. Thank you again for talking about investing in the African podcast industry. We love having all of you on and continue to celebrate. I know it's probably close to midnight where you guys are at, so podcast day may be ending. I appreciate you coming in later than normal to check out the conversation and to share your thoughts on a growing industry for sure. So we've always been excited to have African-based podcasters on our events since 2015. So from Steve and I, happy International Podcast Day to each and every one of you. We really appreciate the time given today.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank
right.
you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
It's been amazing.
All right.
Bye, Dave.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good
Bye.
International Podcast Day.